Good morning. We Master Gardeners of Nevada County are so thrilled to be back in touch with you, our neighbors, and hosting our popular public workshops. And as I said, our workshop today is Flowers 101 from Seed to Vase. It's being brought to you today by Patricia Wolf and Chris Vassar.
Good morning, and welcome to Flowers 101 from Seed to Vase. My name is Patricia Wolf, and I've been a Nevada County Master Gardener since 2009. My passion for growing anything has gotten me to this place, a gardener who can never have too many flowers. So today, Chris Vassar and I are going to give you some information and instructions on how to grow flowers from seed, how to care for your seedlings once they're up, harden them off, and then we'd like to talk about a few of our favorite flowers, cosmos, dahlias, and zinnias. We also want to cover harvesting your flowers and the care of your flowers once they've been harvested. And finally, we will end with a simple flower arrangement that we've made from our flowers from the garden. Remember, all of the videos have handouts that are attached to this workshop, so you don't need to write anything down at this point. Just sit back, listen, and hopefully you'll learn as much as we've learned in doing this workshop. I'd like to start with seed starting basics. Obviously, that's the beginning of everything. We're in my greenhouse right now, and behind me is a tray of seed starting sterile mix that we recommend that you use to start your seedlings. I've let the seed starting mix dry out because I really want you to see the difference between the dry mix, which is in here, and the moistened mix, which is already in my cell tray. The color of them it's totally different, obviously, and you should get used to knowing that, because then you're able to tell when your mix is too dry and you need to water. The consistency of the soil moisture should be that of a run-out sponge. So I want to show you some of the supplies that we need to get started. Obviously, you need your seed packet. Today we're going to plant one of my favorite zinnias, and hopefully I'll be able to enjoy this. It is a little late in the season to be planting, but this is called Tudor, Zinnia Tudor. And what you need to do is read your seed packet before you plant. There's a lot of information on most of the seed packs. If there's not everything that you really want, I really encourage you to go online and do some in-depth checking. For instance, this one isn't really telling me how deep to plant your seed. Almost all of them do. Zinnias should be planted 1/4 to 1/2 inch deep. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to cut this packet open. I'm going to be sure there are no seeds stuck on the edge, which certainly can happen. I'm going to shake it down a little bit just to be sure they're all down. And I'm going to not cut off the name of the plant, which I've done. And then I don't know what is in the seed packet. I really encourage you to get a container that is white on the bottom, so it's really easy to see your seeds. It's much more efficient to pour your seeds into your container rather than pour them into your hand and try to get the seeds into the cell. So I poured my packet in here. Now what I want to do is I want to take a plastic label before I start planting, and I want to put the name of the plant, which is Tudor, Zinnia. I want to put the date on it so that I know when I planted it, and whatever other information you'd really like to have on your plant, whether it's the height, the color, any of those any other information, just write it down. And I'm going to put tall 3-foot purple so that I remember what I'm planting. And I'm going to put it with the name of the plant facing out. Now this seed tray is a 50-cell seed tray, and I do recommend this for, number one, if you put 2 seeds in a cell, you have 100 plants right there with 1 tray. That's a lot of plants. Of course, they're not all going to germinate. Germination is probably about 80% for most of these, some a little bit more. And I have underneath this a 10 by 20, which means 10 inches by 20 inch tray without holes, which means I can bottom water my seedlings, which is a very good way when you first start your seedlings, especially smaller seedlings, so you don't displace them and dislodge them. So we're getting ready to plant. I've got my seeds here. There are different tools to use for planting. Your finger obviously works. There's a little seed planting apparatus here. I've not had really good luck with it, but if you use it and practice with it, it will work just fine. Tweezers to pick up your seeds is also another viable solution. I use chopsticks. I use it for two purposes. With the bigger end, with the bigger seeds, I use this to make my holes in the cell. And with the other end, which I've marked, I plant my seeds. So I think we're ready to get started with planting. And I'm going to sit down here and get going. So I'm ready to plant my Tudor zinnia seeds, and they're in my container. And so I'm going to make my holes first. With the end cell, because of the label, I'm going to do 2 seeds per cell, just because I'm a gardener who needs more flowers than she could ever use. So I'm going to, with my planting end, which I've marked with a line, by the way, for 1.25 inches, just to give me a little bit of guidance when I start out here. So I'm making 2 holes there, and then I'm going to make my holes at each corner of the cell, so that when I transplant the seedlings, the roots aren't as entangled as they would be if you planted them in the same hole. So here we go. I'm going to place a seed, and I'm going to keep my container close to the cell that I'm in. And there's a number of reasons for that. One of them, I know which cell I'm working in, and the seedling is close to the cell. And second, if I get distracted and the phone rings or I have to do something and stop, I have my container right over my cell. So what I will do at that point is make a decision whether I'm going to stick my chopstick in the cell I have just finished, or if I'm going to put it in the next one. Then I can stop and go do whatever I have to do, come back and restart, and I won't overplant and forget where I am. And I have done this, of course. So this is a voice of experience. So I'm almost done with my row, and what I will do next is cover these seeds with the soil that I've pushed out of the way when I made my hole. You can also top dress it with a little bit of the soil mix if you'd like. So I'm just going to do the little squeeze method. Squeeze it over and cover. Squeeze it over and cover. Squeeze over and cover. Squeeze and cover. All the way down the row. These seeds need darkness to germinate, so be sure that you cover them completely. Again, on your seed packet, if they need light to germinate and you have to leave them on the surface, it will tell you that also. So there we are. We have covered our seedlings. And what you do next, before anything else, is the seeds, not seedlings, seeds. What you do with the seeds next is you put your seeds back in your packet, you fold it over if it doesn't have a flap, and you tape it. And I recommend that you put your seeds in the refrigerator for storage. So there you have it, and you're done with that. So now we're going to water our plant, and I like to bottom water my seeds. So what I'm going to do is just pull this over a little bit like this, and I have my hose here in my greenhouse. Put about 1/2 inch of water. Now normally I would have this whole tray planted, not just one of them. And it's about, I should really do it the other way so you can see how much water is in there. I've just covered the bottom and almost, like about so. And then I'm going to put my tray in like so. And I'm going to get my spray bottle. Remember, all of this information is written down for the workshop. And I'm going to spray just the rows that I have planted. Just so you know that the top gets nice and moist. The seed will make contact with the mix. Okay, so you're planted now. Especially in the winter, things are very different because you're planting probably in your home, and you will need to use a dome. There are two kinds. Which I prefer this kind that has vents on the end and in the middle. but there's also just a solid. You cover your tray. And in the winter, again, you're going to need an adjustable fluorescent light and a heat mat. And this is a heat mat specifically sized for a 10 by 20. And what you will do at this point is just put your seed tray on your heat mat and put it in a nice warm place in your house. When the seedlings emerge, you remove your dome and you put them under lights. This is just a fluorescent light that I've had for years. It's adjustable, so you can pull this up and down as the seedlings grow. It's not perfect. It would be perfect if there were 2 lights here and it would cover the entire tray. But with just one row that I'm planting here, I would put that row right under it. And whatever the height of the seedling, you want your light approximately 2 to 3 inches above the top of the seedling. What you want to do is raise your light as the seedlings grow. When they get to the point where their roots are coming out the bottom, it's time to transplant. Now, in the winter time or in the spring when you're planting, it could be too cold to transplant outside. So what you want to do is transplant into a 6-pack, a 4-pack, whatever you decide works for you. At the end of June, I planted, actually, flowers because I can't get enough flowers. And I did cosmos and zinnias again and put them into 4-packs. Now, as you can see, even now, the roots, they are so ready to go outside. I just have not had time to do that. But in the springtime, when you're going to put your plants outside, what you'll need to do is harden them off. And so a good amount of time is about 30 minutes the first day. And bring them out. Be sure you watch them. If it's really a warm day, be sure that they're not wilting. And bring them back inside. Get them so they're out, so it's when it's colder in the evening for a while, maybe not overnight, but later in the evening. And then finally you'll be able to transplant into the garden. I use a butter knife, basically, to get my plants out of the cell packs. There are a few methods, and I've done this so many times. You can take your fingers when you're out in the garden ready to plant and turn your cell over and push on it. But a better way so that, because I've had accidents, of course, is take your butter knife or whatever tool you find works for you. Everybody's different. And gently just bring out the entire root ball with your plant. Have a hole ready for it in good organic soil and plant your plants and water them in. And I think we're done, and happy gardening. Hi, we're out here in my garden with my flowers, and I want to talk to you about harvesting your flowers properly and the methods to use, and then the care after you harvest them. This is my zinnia and cosmos bed, and 2 of my favorite flowers for the summertime. And they are in a raised bed with netting to control them that is just attached on the ends with stakes. When you harvest your flowers and your materials for your bouquets, you need to have, as I keep on harping on, good, clean, sharp snips, and you will, for your woody stems, you will need pruners. Bring your water with you to the garden. I have my bucket sitting right over here. I've already picked some of the filler material and woody stems that we'll talk about later, but I want to harvest my zinnias and cosmos. Single cosmos should be harvested at the breaking bud stage. And it's hard for me to do that because I like the flower to be open, but I want you to take your pruners and cut the longest stem that you can. And immediately stick your flowers in water. So we have some cupcake cosmos blush here that I'm going to cut. Some of them are going to be a little bit more open because I don't have that many that are at the breaking bud stage. If it's a double, you want it to be, you want to wait till it's half open before you cut it. So some of these need to go anyway, so I'm actually deadheading at the same time that I am harvesting, because The more flowers you cut, the more flowers you get. We're going to move on to our zinnias over here, and it's a different method for seeing if they're ready to cut. It's called the wiggle test. And what you want to do is just grab the flower down about 8 inches and wiggle it. And if it's nice and strong, it's ready. And this baby's ready. So we're going to cut this like so. And you're going to go down to cut to a node where 2 other shoots are coming out. Cut it down as close as you can to the bottom. And with these, then the bees want to pollinate them. Again, you try to get the flowers before they get pollinated because they last longer in the vase. I clean my stems if I can right out in the field so that when I put them in the water, there are no leaves that are underneath the water. Stick those babies in there. Let's get a few more. Here's a lovely queen lime orange. And again, nice and tough and strong. And again, we're going to just strip the foliage. Be sure when you come out to the garden, your buckets are clean and filled with cool water. Again, we're talking about picking at the appropriate stage, which is really important. And if you pick too soon, you have the possibility that your plant is going to wilt, and that will be the end of it. I want to show you, and I think we're going to stop right here. I want to discuss some of the other materials, and I want to talk to you. This is Holodiscus, which is a native, which we love, and I had no idea I could use this plant here. But with woody stems like this, I'm going to recut the bottom there at a nice angle, and then I'm going to take my snips, and I'm going to cut right up the middle of that, about 1 inch. And this is for water uptake, of course. And then I'm going to put it right back down in my bucket.